I want to talk to you today about the bad days of grief. There are times when you're going through your grieving period where it's going to be a rough day, a bad day. And no matter what you do, you couldn't have prepared for the bad day. But it doesn't mean that the bad day has to turn into a bad week, a bad month. It doesn't mean that we have to be stuck in that bad day. We can turn it around if we can get a hold of it quickly. So, what does a bad day of grief look like? Well, it starts with looking at all the areas of your life because you're going to feel it in all these areas. So, a bad day of grief, cognitively, you might find yourself thinking about your loved one over and over, and not in the positive way, but thinking about the things that cause you pain related to them being gone. So, not only how you lost them, why you lost them, and then all of the things that have gone wrong as a result of that. A bad day would involve having memories of other losses on top of the loss that you've had with your individual person. And now it feels like you're looking at how many people you've lost and trying to figure out why are there so many losses in your life. And almost feeling like the losses are personal attack in that you just keep losing and losing rather than seeing that the loss of people that we love sometimes it's in the natural course of life, sometimes it's in the unnatural timing of life, but it doesn't mean that necessarily the universe is out to get us because we've had more than one loss in our life. It's also during this time where you may have a day where you just can't concentrate. You can't think straight. There's too much going on, too much flooding your mind, and it feels like mentally you're trying so hard to get a hold of things but having difficulty in doing it. And then you also will find that you might be having forgetfulness during this time period, that you're trying to remember all the things that you're supposed to do, but you just can't because mentally you're going through just a really rough day. And so the tasks that were normally easy for you to do, for you to plan, for you to take care of, now you're having difficulty even achieving those because cognitively there is just too much emotionally going on to balance the ordinary tasks because you're feeling weighed down, confused, frustrated by the task of grieving. And so things that were simple problems to solve or figure out, now it's taking you a lot longer because you're really having a tough day mentally dealing with grief. Now, during these bad days of grief, there's also not only mentally we're dealing with struggles, but now emotionally the emotions match up with that. Because maybe we're having difficulty concentrating, we're getting frustrated with ourselves. Because we're thinking about our loved one and we're thinking about them over and over and over again and just asking the questions about why did they have to leave and why did we lose them the way that we did. Now we feel our mood is starting to go up and down and we're dealing with mood swings because we're frustrated. We're going from feeling the loss to feeling the anger, and then now we're feeling frustration, right? We're feeling abandonment because they're gone, and we felt that they could have done something, or maybe we could have done something. So now we have our own emotions just seeming like they're just like a ping pong ball bouncing back and forth, bouncing all over the place. And emotionally, it's a difficult day. During these difficult days, you might find that you just feel really disconnected to other people, or you feel disconnected with yourself because you're trying to figure out what's going on, but your moods are not matching your thoughts, and you're just feeling physically now drained. You might find yourself during these periods of having these bad days just feeling like there's some maybe tightness in your chest, or you're feeling like your heart is beating quickly. You're having problems eating. You might feel because of the nervousness, because of the anxiety, you're not able to eat, don't want to eat, or maybe you're feeling bloated. You're feeling like, what, I'm going to the bathroom all the time because I'm so anxious, or I just don't, I keep getting this headache because I keep ruminating over the person that I've lost, and going through these thoughts over and over again, thoughts of loss and hurt and anger, is now causing me to feel headache or feel nauseous because I just can't settle my emotions. And then now, as a result of not being able to settle my emotions, my physical body is now out of alignment. And then during these really bad days of grief, we're seeing that we're either forgetting to eat or we're eating too much. We're eating to constantly try to lower our anxiety to feel better, but it's not helping because now we're having, gastrointestinal problems or just feeling discomfort, and now that is being added to the number of problems that we're experiencing during this bad day. And because you're in a mood that you can't explain, you're physically not feeling up to being around other people, and you're uncomfortable, this may cause you to just start to withdraw from other people. The things that used to make you happy, you stop doing. And then for some people, they find themselves drinking more, eating more, or just doing something that they know is harmful for their body. And so in these days, I want you to pay attention to what's going on, and then to look at what are some things that you can do to begin to address it. These bad days of grief are usually very, very difficult to navigate by yourself. And you may feel that you don't want to be with someone else because of, the way that you feel, or having low energy and not feeling like having to explain yourself to other people. But this is when reaching out to your friends is so important, because sometimes we get so wound up in of ourselves. We need to be with other people to help us to number one, just be able to talk to them and help relieve some of the emotion by expressing it through conversation and by getting affirmation from our friends and our loved ones. And then we need to look at what are some ways to kind of bring the meter down, because mentally, emotionally, physically, and in our behavior, we could be at a level 10 of just frustration and inability to deal with it. But if we start to address it little by little, we can bring that from a 10 down to maybe even a 3 or a 2 and feel significantly better on that bad day. So how do we do that? Well, we have to actually combat the thing that's going on in our mind, our body, and our emotions by doing something to address it at that level. So when we're looking at what's happening cognitively, if you're having difficulty planning or problem solving or remembering things, then this is when you want to reduce the amount of planning, problem solving that you have to do, and forgive yourself for the things that you cannot remember today, because tomorrow you'll figure it out. Later on, you'll remember them. But instead of being angry at yourself because you can't remember all the things that were on your to-do list, just try to remember one and solve one item on your to-do list. And then give yourself permission to take care of the rest when you have the emotional and mental capacity to do so. Forgetting things, having difficulty, is just a sign that today is a bad day of grief. It's not a sign that somehow you're not competent or you're not capable. It just means I'm having a rough day. And give yourself permission to just do the little that you can today so that tomorrow you can do more, but without beating up on yourself because you can't do more today. And then when you look at addressing the emotional things that you're dealing with, this is when talking, this is when physically getting outside your home and just doing something, walking, moving, is going to help to address the physical feelings that you're having, but also the emotional. Because now that your body has released some of that negative energy, you can also begin to really talk about what you're feeling and why today is a bad day. And on the emotional level, sometimes we're experiencing a bad day in grief and we haven't acknowledged why. Maybe it's an anniversary day. Maybe you were triggered by something you saw, something you experienced, or something that someone else said. It's okay. It's okay to look and ask yourself the question, why is today a bad day with grief? What's going on for me? Because sometimes we just need to remind ourselves and get connected to the actual events of that day and identify why we felt this way. It might be something that someone said, but it also might be an anniversary that we were trying to forget, but our body remembered, our subconscious remembered, and therefore our emotions followed suit, even though we were trying to tell ourselves, there's nothing wrong. Today's an ordinary day. Today's the same day as it was yesterday. But the truth is, today might be the week of the time that we lost our loved one, or the week of their birthday, or the week of an anniversary, or the week of something else, or it could be the month of, and we're just happening to feel these emotions and having this bad day at the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, the end of the month. But it's telling us that there's something going on that we have to pay attention to and we have to acknowledge. And you'll find that oftentimes once you just acknowledge that this is an anniversary of this day, that just that acknowledgement connects you with your emotions and it puts things in order. And then all of a sudden the pain is alleviated just a little bit because you've acknowledged what's going on for you. And then with that acknowledgement, you can start to address it. You can plan for, you know what, this is an anniversary date, so therefore I'm going to do less this week. Or this is an anniversary date, so I'm going to make sure that I have someone that cares about me, that I love being with, to be with during this anniversary date. Or this is an anniversary date, and I'm going to make sure I do something fun. I'm going to make sure I do something to help me manage my emotions, but also to help me celebrate my loved one. To give yourself permission to express what's really happening in your body and your mind. You have to connect with what is taking place and why now. Why today a bad day versus yesterday? Why today may be a worse day than yesterday if yesterday was a bad day. Connecting, acknowledging, and allowing yourself to process that emotion is very important for changing around a bad day. Now, if you're having physical symptoms, you want to be able to ensure that you're practicing breathing to help calm your emotions. So there's a breathing technique of 4x4 where you inhale for 4 and then you breathe out for 4. And you do that, and by the time you finish doing the 4x4s, you've been inhaling and exhaling at least 16 times, and that's helping you to kind of just get control of your physical breathing, of your physical body, and reduce some of that fight or flight, some of that stress response that you were currently feeling. So with that breathing, while you are inhaling and like a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, then you're going to exhale to a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. This is helping you to hold your lungs empty for 4 count, but also to breathe in for 4 count. And you'll find that you are reducing your level of stress. You're just beginning to find yourself centered and becoming more mindful of the experience that you're having at the moment to help you manage some of the emotional responses that you're having. And let's look at what else you can do. If you're finding during that bad day of grief that you're withdrawing, you want to do the opposite of that, and you want to connect. And you find that, you know what, the things I enjoy doing, I just don't feel like doing today, then give yourself permission to not feel like doing that for a period of time, but at least try to do one thing that you enjoy, something different, or maybe engage in listening to music, or listening to something that is pleasing, or something that helps you not think about the grief. So I just want to remind you that you can get through the bad days of grief, that you can not only survive them, but thrive during the bad days of grief. So thank you for joining me. I just want to remind you to show yourself grace, to know that your bad day does not have to last, that you can conquer this bad day, that you can remember, recover, and recreate your life. Thank you.